Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to continue our discussion with mental illnesses in fiction. And what I wanted to do is move into personality disorders. And then I realized that really what I need to talk about with personality disorders is belief systems. And so we're going to do that first. And this is probably going to be like a two-parter, really, because first I want to talk about belief systems, but then I want to talk about how they can really be used in fiction, because I think in many ways it actually may be the best way to think of characters is by their limiting beliefs and their belief systems, because that will guide you with whatever happens in your story. You can almost throw whatever you want at the character, and then based upon their belief system, kind of figure out where they might go, or what they might think, or how they might feel about that. But first, getting into belief systems. Belief systems in many ways are what I like to call the operating system of your brain. They are the filter through which your mind perceives everything, really. Perceives you, perceives the people around you, perceives your relationships, perceives the nature of the universe in many ways. It is this sort of basic factor by which everything in life is measured. And we don't really know exactly where these belief systems, or at least I should say I don't really know where these belief systems come from. Some seem to be kind of hardwired. Babies are born with a lot more personality than we used to give them credit for, and all the people with little children just rolled their eyes, went, well, duh. But we've seen some evidence that babies are born with a lot more personality, and so that means we're kind of a little more hardwired to be a particular way, at least in some aspects. But even other belief systems are coming from a very, very young place, like maybe when you're still in the crib. I would argue that by the time a kid has started elementary school, a lot of these belief systems have already been kind of laid down, and certainly by the time the kid hits puberty, that's kind of it. It's not to say people don't change after puberty, but the belief systems are kind of laid down. And by belief systems, what I mean is these very black and white statements about how the world works. Things like, and a lot of things that we just sort of say, like the money is root of all evil. Good things come to those who deserve them. Hard work gets you things. People are inherently good. People are inherently bad. Power corrupts, but all power corrupts absolutely. I am loved. I am lovable. I can trust people. People in authority will take care of me. People in authority will abuse me. These are all just sort of very basic statements. And I haven't really found like a good list online yet. I'd love to find one of like all these sort of different limiting beliefs. Maybe there's got to be one out there, because I know there's cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, they call it schema. They use a lot of these in their counseling. But the core of belief systems they're all these very sort of simplistic black and white statements. And the hardest thing for us to learn is that all of your belief systems are bullshit. They are all lies. To the degree that there is no belief that is 100% true 100% of the time in 100% of the situations. The problem is our mind acts like this is true. If I say, can you trust everyone? Most people go, well, no, obviously not. That's a very logical reaction. But when people interact, when that person interacts with others, they will act as if everyone is inherently trustworthy. And that's the problem. Some people you can trust. Some people you could never, ever trust. Some people you can trust in certain situations and not in others. Or at certain times and not at certain other times. And that's the problem. The other problem with belief systems is because this is the way your brain perceives the world, most of the time we're not even aware of what our beliefs are and what our belief systems are. That's definitely where counseling comes into play, because it takes an outside party to kind of look at the patterns of the way someone thinks and feels and acts and that sort of thing. one way that I can kind of tell you that I can always tell when I'm bumping up on a client's belief systems is when I start to challenge them on something, they usually get mad, like very mad. It's almost like a reaction kind of mad. I have one client who has issues with her sister. She's an adult. They're both adults. And what was it? Her father was talking about wanting to give away a bunch of stuff because the parents are getting older and they're going to downsize and all the kids have left, so they're going to sell their house. And the father was talking about giving away some of this really nice antique furniture to my client's sister, and my client got very angry and said she didn't deserve any of that stuff. She shouldn't have any of that stuff. And as we kind of dug down into it, there's a sense of unfairness because, at least from my client's perspective, her sister has always been like the bad kid. She abandoned the family. She didn't stick around to take care of the parents when they got older. She's always kind of gotten to do whatever she gotten away with, being the bad kid. She didn't finish school, this other stuff. And what we kind of came to the conclusion is that my client, one of her basic beliefs is fairness, is justice. That if you do good things, you get good things. If you don't do good things, then you shouldn't get good things. And that was more the root of her anger than anything else. Was her sister was in her mind was this walking, talking violation of her beliefs. And so, and I've seen this with other clients too. When I just ask questions that challenge this sort of basic notion, just kind of really playing devil's advocate and really just trying to dig down into, well, why do you think that? What's so bad about that? What's so wrong with that? What if this is true instead of that? That sort of thing. And almost inevitably, I ask a question, it starts to piss off my client, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, now we know we're getting out of belief system. And the only reason why I can think of that why the brain responds with anger to having its beliefs challenged is because in a way what I am saying is how you think you understand the universe is wrong. And the brain does not like that. The brain does not like change. The brain likes to do whatever it's been doing. Even if the brain doesn't really like what it's doing, it still just wants to do more of that. That's why a lot of people will be stuck in alcoholism for a long time, or stuck in a bad relationship or a bad job or whatever, is at one level the person knows, I hate this, I don't want to do this, this is bad for me, I need to get out. And on the other hand, they're like, yeah, but this is what I've always done. And I don't know what comes after this. And that fear of the unknown is pretty solid. And the brain is like, well, let's just stay here and deal with this. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. That's almost like one of the belief systems of almost everybody's brain. It is very hard to kind of challenge that sort of thing. And so when I come along and I kind of poke holes in their belief systems and show that's not as black and white as you think, there's a lot more nuance, there's gray. A lot of times the brain doesn't like that because now it has to rethink everything in the world. And that was kind of what happened with this client. Was we kind of were able to sort out that she wasn't really mad at her sister. She was mad at her parents because they were constantly rewarding her for being the bad kid. She was the preferred daughter. She was the first daughter, as I called her. And she was always the second daughter, even though she did everything to help the family, did all the things the parents wanted to do. She was the good girl, and she got nothing. She was the bad girl, and she got everything. And they just pissed her off. And I wonder how many of y'all listening to this probably are starting to feel similar issues, because this is a common one. This sense of fairness is a big part of humanity, and I think especially if you're an American, that's kind of like the bedrock of American culture and history, is that there's this fairness. All men are created equal. Everyone is treated fairly under the law. And then you watch some politician or some celebrity get away with murder, sometimes literally murder, and that rubs most Americans the wrong way. Interestingly, in a lot of other cultures, they're not bothered by this, because to them that's just how it is. The rich and powerful get away with stuff. You're not rich and powerful, so watch your ass. So with belief systems, This is one of the hard parts of belief systems. If you know that you have a negative one, like let's say you can't trust anybody, trust is a hard one, because if you trust everyone, well, you're going to get screwed. You're eventually going to meet that con artist, that sociopath, the cult leader, the person who you really shouldn't trust. Sometimes you usually end up in a relationship with them, and they cheat on you, and they lie about it, and they use drugs, and they do all this other stuff. And because you inherently think everybody is trustworthy, then you end up getting hurt, or conned out of a lot of money and stuff. The flip side is if you never trust anyone, well, then you become bitter and cynical and angry, because everyone you meet is out to get you to some degree. They're out to screw you in some way. It can also just be lonely. You might even say, well, they're not out to screw me, but I know when the chips are down, none of these people have got my back. They will all leave me. They'll all abandon me. They'll all betray me. And so it's better just to be alone all the time. And so trust is a really difficult one. So when you become aware of an unhealthy belief system, and to be honest, they're all to some degree, because like I said, they're all bullshit, so to some degree they're all unhealthy. You have to sort of become aware of it. That sometimes takes a lot of introspection and reflection and counseling, someone that can kind of poke that bear. And then you always have to look for, as coldly and dispassionately as you can, evidence that confirms your belief system and evidence that doesn't. And you have to sometimes seek that out. You certainly have to seek out evidence that does not confirm your belief system, because that's something else about the brain, is it will filter out, because again, the brain doesn't like change, the brain doesn't like its belief systems challenged. So what we'll do is it'll filter out any evidence to the contrary, to the point that it literally will not see evidence that does not support its belief systems. At the very least, when the evidence is so in your face that can't be just ignored, then it's usually minimized and downplayed and that sort of thing. Another story about another client that I had a long time ago was his belief was that he basically just, women didn't like him. That he wasn't good with women, he wasn't good at dating, he was unattractive, which is really ironic because the guy was like a fucking model. He was tall and good looking and had the deep voice and perfectly straight teeth and very nice dresser. And so, I mean, it was one of those ironies where someone who's super objectively good looking does not believe that they're good looking. But anyway, so it took us a long time to get him to feel confident enough to go to a party, because he was getting invited to parties, he just never went. And so he finally, kind of had the courage to go to the party. And my homework to him was just go, be there for an hour, and then leave. You don't have to do anything more than just that. You don't have to even talk to anybody, but you have to go and you have to be there for an hour just to push back on this anxiety and tell yourself that's okay. If you do anything more than that, then that's great. That's bonus points. And he did do more than that. He went there and he saw a girl that he kind of liked, and he tried to talk to her. And, this was him telling me the story in my office, a few days afterwards. And he said, it was horrible. It was bad. I went and I saw this girl that I liked, and I talked to her, and I kept trying to engage her in conversation. She just gave me like this one-word answer, or just blow me off, or talk to her friends, check her phone. It was just horrible, and I don't know why I kept trying to talk to her, because it was even worse because there's this other woman over here who just kept interrupting me and asking me questions and trying to talk to me, and I was just back and forth. And you see what happened there? His belief system honed in on the woman who confirmed his beliefs. His brain honed in. See, I'm not good with women. She doesn't like me. She didn't want to talk to me. She's blowing me off. She's reinforcing the fact that I'm not attractive to women. He totally didn't get the fact that this one over here was, because that didn't matter. That didn't match the belief system. The fact that some other woman is randomly just trying to talk to him and hit on him and that sort of thing, that doesn't compute. And so he just literally didn't see it until I pointed out that I think this is what's really going on. And another way that the brain might play that out is like, well, yeah, she was hitting on me, but she's just being nice. She was really drunk. There weren't many guys there, so she didn't have anyone else to talk to, or whatever else. Now it's okay. Yeah, she's violating my belief system, but it doesn't really count. It doesn't matter. This is why it's so very hard to work on your belief systems, is because your brain doesn't want to. It's very challenging, and which is sad, because in many ways that is the most important work to be done in a counseling session, is working on these belief systems. Like the next probably thing, which they're kind of related, is the Jungian shadow work, in which you get comfortable with the darker aspects of yourself, the parts of yourself that you really don't like, that you're ashamed of, that you're afraid of, that you hope no one ever finds out, that you yourself don't even want to acknowledge. That kind of shadow work is probably the really truly important things. But I'd argue that in order to do that work, you also have to challenge your belief systems, because a lot of times the way we rigidly hold on to our belief systems is kind of what keeps our shadow alive and well, maybe even strengthens it in some ways. As long as I can believe everybody isn't untrustworthy, then they'll never see this part of me that I don't really like. And on that note, I think that's probably a good stopping point, because I want the next video to be about how you can use this concept of belief systems to create your characters. I think probably you've already figured out some ways just from what I've been talking about. And then maybe I'll pick out some, like, the more common belief systems that I see, and we'll kind of do a little brainstorm and see how we can make that work in a fiction sort of setting. But anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know, in the comments, post down like some of your beliefs. What do you hold the most dear? Whether it is something that you would like to get rid of, or something that you think everybody else needs to follow too, because that's some shadow work there as well. But anyway, I will talk to you later. Bye.